As I was saying, there are two issues that arise from the survey conducted by a group of university during the shutdown of some universities in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic. And they cited that the first one is the lack of organizational preparedness for a pandemic. And the second one is lack of pandemic specific advanced simulation exercises. This is the type of hazard that most of us did not anticipate that it will reach and affect the Philippines. Now, leading to risk reduction, which is part of minimizing further damage because of the impact in this community, in our community. There's a need for us not just to be ready and not just to respond, but to adapt healthily. And part of that is includes capacity building. Now, capacity building um, is exerting effort aimed to enhance human skills or societal organizations within a community to reduce the level of risk. And this involves training like these and other trainings that you have, and it requires community efforts. Even for you as a student, you have leaders. Some of you are leaders here, and this is what you're doing. You are training others, you're building up. You, as professional learners, could collaborate, create a community that will support and help manage the impacts of this pandemic in our community and cooperate in capacity building by enhancing your skills, developing what you have, and providing support to your leaders. And next is, yes, very specific examples of capacity building are trainings like learning first aid responses, and also you as a leader building others up by simply encouraging them. That's part also of capacity building. Next is organizing meaningful connections and activities. Now, this is what you're doing as part of our foundation's commemoration and also as part of your initiatives. I'm so glad that you are building up or organizing meaningful activities and connections despite our physical distance. Now, let us not allow this physical distance to hinder us from organizing these activities that will support and encourage other students and minimizing the damage that they might incur from mga psychological, mental impacts on them. And let us try to avoid further risks and reach out those especially with those at high risk, those students who have been highly affected and vulnerable to the economic, academic, mental health impacts of this pandemic. Let us also prioritize relationships, connecting with empathetic and understanding people. This will remind every one of us that we are not alone in the midst of difficulties, and together everyone can achieve more. The next P is prevention. Now, this is part of mitigation and also preparedness for us to avoid further damage. Let us now prevent. Prevent what? Let us make sure that our activities will provide outright avoidance of severe or adverse impact of hazards. And this requires self-discipline, awareness, and genuine concern for others and for yourself. Now, part of the prevention, we have been educated and taught to wear our mask, face shield, and so on and so forth. So let's continue doing that in order to avoid adverse impact of the said pandemic. Now, last is also very important. Let us enhance C. Now, there are different types of resiliency: physical resiliency, psychological resiliency, emotional resiliency, and we as a community resiliency. Now, let me share to you 5 R's of resiliency. that we must try to enhance and be aware of and to act upon. So the first is robustness. Robustness incorporates the concept of reliability and refers to the ability to absorb and withstand disturbances and crises. So during this time of the word reliability, be part of those reliable people. Kanina sa ating ready, we must be available to assist. Now, if we have been entrusted to assist, let us be reliable members of our community. Some of the examples of these are we can design mechanisms to prevent uh, further damage to our community, to assist them to what system we are using at school, and let us all together be reliable and be responsible. Next is risk redundancy. It involves having excess capacity and backup systems which enable the maintenance of core functionality in the event of disturbances. Just like what you're doing now, the officers, the organizers of this event, and other academic leaders and organization levels, you are doing this. You're using your backup systems and other ways in order for you to maintain those core functionality of your group, of your class, and even the academic community in the event of these disturbances. Now, another one is, oh, this is very important in order for us to minimize the impact of this pandemic in our lives and for us to be resilient, resourcefulness. This means that it's the ability to adapt to crisis, respond flexibly, and when possible, one. Now, how can we transform a negative impact into a positive one? I've mentioned earlier that we have to cope and adapt healthily. It means that we have been just like our body, we have this immune system, we have ways to cope up from injury and again develop or heal from it. Now, let us learn to positively and be flexible to these changes by being resourceful. Now, this is crucial to enabling the ability to influence and creativity. And I'm sure that you are rich in human resource and rich in creativity in your department. And part of the resourcefulness is the next one is response. Now, if we are creative, if we are resourceful, we can still respond to the needs of others, to the needs of our community, and even to the needs of our family. This is the ability to mobilize, take note quickly, or timely in the face of crisis. Now, this component of resilience, it assesses whether an organization has good methods for gathering relevant information from all parts of society and communicating that relevant data and information to others, as well as the ability for decision makers to recognize emerging issues quickly. So I know that everyone is struggling with timely response, and there are some response uh, that are also good and commendable nowadays. And there are rising young leaders who model that to us. Now, I would also like the leaders listening right now to do and be aware of these um, components of resiliency, and that is to mobilize quickly, to act quickly, but wisely in these emerging issues. And two factors important here is communication. Communicating effectively to your team, delegating tasks, and participation, inclusive participation. We need to we're always saying no one should be left behind. Uh, and then we want everyone in this academic struggle to still survive and cope up healthily. Now, you, with your little ways or with your own ways, you can respond to the need of your classmate or let's say to your neighbor who needs assistance, and also providing support and participating actively. So kudos to you who is participating actively in the midst of all these disturbances and distractions. Now, lastly, this is also very important: recovery, the ability to regain a degree of normality after a crisis or event. And yung sinabi natin kanina, building back better, including the ability of a system to be flexible and adaptable and to evolve to deal with the new or change circumstances after the manifestation of a risk. So, as we talk about recovery, this is not just a one man's job. This involves multi level, different stakeholders working together, deciding, strategizing, and adapting to our changing circumstances. On a personal level, you have the ability to regain, to stand up again after being wounded or after feeling down after this pandemic. So just remember to be ready and to cope up healthily in the midst of this pandemic. These are just a few of this disaster readiness and risk reduction concepts that you can apply in your personal l- life and also in your community. So I hope as we end, let's keep this in mind. Let's also keep the theme in mind. We are blessed with life skills, relationships. Now is not the time to give up. You have the role. You have an important contribution to rescuing. As you were refreshed by others, so help also others. Go refresh and reach out strategically and work together to answer this question. You can say, I am still here, meaning you still have a purpose. I am in, meaning you want to actively participate and contribute. And say and ask others, what can I do to help you and my community from this pandemic? So I hope with this short talk you will be encouraged. Once again, my name is Clarence Faith Escote Bueno, saying that God will continue to use you for a purpose and do not lose hope. We can all one. Bye.